Reincarnated with an analysis system. Chapter 11 to 20. Chapter 11. Acting Chief. A lady wearing a white jacket above her black crop top. She also wore a black tight trouser where one of the length is on her thighs and the other covered her while leg. She dashed into the room with flames following behind. Here, behold, I have come to pay thee a visit, she said. She had a proud grin on her lips as she rested her hand on the wall. You must be surprised. Better, won't make for a grand entrance if not. She laughed. Sato just stood there completely puzzled by the whole thing. Right behind him was a dark-haired female with a broken crown on her head and in front of him was a girl with red hair laughing. What the actual hell is going on? Sato uttered silently as he watched more elves walk into the building. Sato sat on the bed with his death angel standing at a corner of the room while the village head, Garion and Devanshi stood in front of him. That had already sent the elves away so they could have some personal time with the person that defeat a divine beast. Garion was an old-looking dark elf, although no one could tell that at first glance. He wore pants made out of animal skin and had long white hair that fell to his back which was complemented by the blue crystal on his forehead. While Devanshi was the human form of the phoenix Sato fought with, her presence alone held a lot of magic power. Devanshi smiled as she stared at Sato. So, aren't you going to ask the obvious? She asked. Sato sighed before looking at the old man seated in front of him. The room was small and had no light, but Sato could still make out the man's face. I remember you, you are the village head here. I heard the dark elf call you that, but I'm not sure. Sato uttered as he stared at the man hard to get a good look at him. Goran laughed. You are quite right, yes I am the village head, and my son was the one you encountered in the forest, Orland, said the man. Sato clicked his tongue before looking to the side. That jerk wanted to use me for a sacrifice, he yelled in his mind. I want to apologize for what my son's doings. He let power and fear overtake him and ended up breaking the sacred rule we elves kept amongst ourselves, said Goran. Excuse me, old man, aren't you also a dark elf? What are you doing ruling over pure innocent, kind, and warm elves? Sato asked. I was about to get to that part. Goran sighed before he continued. The elves and dark elves had always been enemies, fighting for both land and resources, as was survival of the fittest at that time. But you see, our race was one of the most fragile races. Back when we were ruled by the demon lord Abedian, no one dared defy him. He made sure, both the dark elves and elves were enslaved, our men were killed and women were sold as slaves. To escape that fate we came to a understanding that we would work together with the elves and defeat the demon lord, or at least escape his reach. That was when we had help from one of the dwarfs working for the demon lord. He told us about a divine beast somewhere around Rizaha, so we traveled here. We begged the divine beast to help us and it did. It defeated the demon king and didn't ask for a price in return. All it asked was for us to not disturb it while it was asleep in the rock. Sato couldn't help but send a side stare at Devanshi who had a smug look on her face. Hard to believe he's talking about the same divine beast. She almost burnt their whole village, he thought to himself. Goran continued, thanks to the divine beast the dark elves grew closer to the elves and decided to be of one race. Does that answer your question, young master? The man asked. Sato hummed with his hand placed under his jaw. I guess so, but why was she trying to attack you, if she once saved you from the demon lord? He raised another question. Goran gave a weak smile because even he didn't know the answer to that question. They both turned their gaze at Devanshi, expecting her to give an answer. Sorry, I don't feel like saying right now, Devanshi replied, but, if you command me I'll have no choice but to speak, she uttered with a hungry look on her face. Command you? Sato questioned. Well obviously, you defeated me, a divine beast of all things, a being such as yourself is worthy to be my master, she uttered with a smile. Sato jolted up from the bed with his eyes widened in shock. Say that again, he muttered. Divine beast. After that, you're my master. Devanshi placed a finger on her cheek with her eyes facing the ceiling as she guessed again. A smile made its way to Sato's lips as he turned to face Devanshi. Every guy's dream is happening right in front of my eyes. She called me master. I am a girl's master. He held her hand as his smile grew bigger. Devanshi placed her finger on his lips before giving Sato a shy look. Master, you're holding me so tight, please be gentle, said Devanshi with a soft tone. Sato immediately removed his hand before stepping back a few feet. Sorry, I got carried away, he muttered. Devanshi had her arms wrapped around her stomach as she laughed. Oh men, master, you should have seen your face, she cracked up. Stinking son of a bitch was messing with me the whole time. Sato smiled while hiding the frustration he was feeling. Silly me. Goran suddenly stood up from the chair and walked toward Sato. I should get straight to the point, he uttered while moving closer. Sato then changed his focus from Devanshi who was still laughing to Goran that stood in front of him. Young master, I'd like to ask you a favor. I know we tried to kill you in the past, and this request is by far a selfish one, but will you please hear me out? Goran asked. Sato nodded. Yeah sure, I'll listen, he uttered with a serious look. Yes. This is it. The best part of an RPG gameplay. I bet he's going to ask me to save his daughter or something. Goran stood up from the chair and bowed his head. Would you be willing to take on the role as the acting chief of this village? He asked. Sato muttered with a puzzled look on his face before moving away from the man and tripping on the bed. He immediately stood up back and positioned himself beside his Grim Reaper. What do you mean chief? He asked. Goran raised his head and had a gentle smile. It's no surprise that I'm getting old. I can't keep looking after them anymore. They need a strong and dependable leader. I can't be that. I asked the Lady Devanshi, but she said, I won't be leading because as of this moment I belong to my master. Sato turned to look at Devanshi, who still had a smug look on her face. He then gave a weak chuckle as he uttered, I might be screwed here. I'm the backup plan. ... Chapter 12. Give me 1 week. With a sigh, Sato came out of the hut to meet about 20 different elves standing outside. Each one had a face of curiosity that made him nervous. Standing beside him were Goran and Devanshi. They stood in a corner with a smile on their face. Go on. Devanshi whispered to him. Sato changed his focus to the group of elves standing before him before giving out another sigh. Hello there, my name is Sato Inagami. He voiced out. The elves began murmuring amongst themselves. The slam of Goran's staff on the floor was what brought their composure back. Sato couldn't help but give another sigh. What the hell am I even doing? He thought to himself. Before he could say anything again, Goran had already stepped to the front to lend Sato assistance. I'm sure you all remembered the hero who saved us from the god Phoenix's rage, who heroically stood against a divine beast and came out victorious, the very same man that saved our village. He stands before you, the man who will soon become the leader of the village. Goran voiced out before pointing at Sato. Nobody uttered a single word. Silence took over as they all stared at Sato with confusion written all over their face. Chief. A female elf with long blonde hair called out with her hands raised. Goran looked at her and shook his head. Go on, speak. He uttered. I don't think it's wise to trust an outsider with the affairs of the village, she said with boldness written all over her face. Yes. Another male elf yelled. Even if he did defeat the god bird, putting him in charge is more than dangerous. Yeah. They all began throwing their thoughts around, each one giving a reason why Sato should be the one letting. The whole thing didn't surprise Sato all that much since he had already seen it coming. At the end of the day they are still like humans, they wouldn't trust an outsider so easily. He muttered. Devanshi just stood in the corner with her arms folded as she glanced at Sato from the side. Well, I wonder what you're going to do. Can't deny that I want to see how far this goes. She smiled. Helix, can you do me a favor? Sato said. Less than what do you need? Greater than. The village state currently, can you tell me its current state in terms of a healthy community? He inquired. Less than request confirmed. I have discovered a few problems causing rapid health issues in this village. First is the lack of food. They lack enough nutrients to sustain themselves and hence are unable to gain healthy lives. I also detect the villages have only one source of water, used for both cooking and bathing. This is also a cause of their health issues. A plague is one of the reasons. Greater than. They drink and bath in the same water. No wonder they all look skinny. Can you also give me a possible solution to fix the water problem? He asked. Less than affirmative. Greater than. The elves had turned their personal opinion into a debate for who was right. While some were against the idea of Sato being ruler, others were simply okay with it. He defeated a divine beast. His strength is beyond impressive. A male elf yelled. What if he uses that power to threaten us one day? Think, you idiot. The blonde elf uttered. Who the hell are you calling an idiot? The male elf frowned before tightening his fist. Enough, you guy. This is not a way to act. Goran voiced out. They all kept paused and moved away from each other with their focus aimed at him. We apologize, they muttered. Goran then sighed. This is proving more difficult than I thought. He muttered to himself. I've been quiet for long. I think it's time I said a few words or two. Devanshi grinned. She moved toward Sato before pointing at the elves. You all got some nerves. Are you suggesting that I chose the wrong leader to watch over you? She said with a serious look on her face. He tamed the god bird. Amazing. Perhaps he can help us. They all started murmuring again. God bird. Elena called out as she worked out of the elves' mist. Devanshi immediately turned to her. Stop calling me god bird. It's annoying. My name is Devanshi. She uttered with her eyes closed and irritated. My apologies, Lady Devanshi, but it is true he defeated you in battle. What's to say he has the attribute of a leader? A good leader isn't a leader based on strength alone. She voiced. Right now, our home is falling apart. It's true our current chief hasn't gotten us out of it, but if not for him, things would have been far worse. Can he save us from such predicament? I believe this is the true making of a leader. Elena bowed her head. Devanshi looked at her for a while before sighing. Okay then, so you want to test his leadership, right? No, Lady Devanshi, I never said. Fine, we'll do it then, Devanshi voiced out with a smile. She turned to face Sato. Hey, Sato, can you stop? Shut up for a sec. Sato shut her down as he looked around the village like he was searching for something. Devanshi was hard shocked at that. She couldn't help but feel embarrassed about how she was cut short in front of the elves. Sato changed his focus to Goran. Take me to your drinking source. He requested. Goran didn't bother asking why, he just smiled. Of course, shall we? He uttered and led the way. The whole village followed also, wondering why the guest would want to see their water source. There it is. Goran pointed to the river that was running down from the opposite village. Sato walked forward and bent down in front of the river before placing his hand inside. Are these people crazy? He muttered. He couldn't even see his own reflecting in the water. It had also of bacteria inside, and to top it off, different kind of parasite were sticking to the side of the river. He then turned to face Goran while still bent. Do you drink directly from this? Sato asked. Yes, we do. Is there a problem? Goran asked. Of course, there's a problem. Sato yelled, this river isn't pure, hell at this point it's considered a dump waste, why would you drink out of this? Goran gave a weak smile, we know that, so we also make sure to boil it before consuming, it's the only water we have, we can't be picky. But that won't do, not when the water is this bad, did you not ever try getting water from the other kingdoms or towns? Sato sighed as he stood to his feet. Water would cost money, around 5 gold pieces to sustain the whole village, and we don't have that, Goran muttered. 5 gold. Helix. Sato questioned. Less than notice, the money system is mostly used in bigger kingdoms, smaller villager tend to use trade as a means of marketing. The use of gold, bronze and silver pieces was just recently known around villages. 10 bronze coin equals 1 silver coin. 10 silver coin equals 1 gold coin greater than. Sato sighed before looking at the faces of the elves, no wonder they drink this, 5 gold looks too expensive, he uttered. Lord Sato. Goran called out. 1 week. Sato looked to all the villagers with a determined expression, I just need 1 week. I'll make a miracle happen. Sato said with his thumb aimed at his chest. What are you talking about? Elena asked. I'll transform this village inside out, in 1 week, I'm pretty determined man. Sato said again, leaving the villagers to gasp at his plan. Devanshi gave a proud smile before walking over to his side, he meant give us 1 week. Sato looked at her and smiled back, if between those 1 week, you feel I'm still not cut out to rule, then I'll gladly leave the village. They all began looking at themselves, each one wondering what they should say, but that was until a dark elf came running it. Chief. The dark elf called out as he ran toward the gathering. He fell to the ground with his face sliding against the rock before he finally came to a standstill. Dekka, what happened? Why are you running? Goran asked as he moved closer to him. The rest of the villagers moved toward him too, leaving Sato to stand at the riverside alone with Devanshi. Lord Goran, we have to run. The dark elf yelled. Calm down and tell me what happened. The demons are here. The dark elf yelled again, and they are not going unless we give them another one. They want to destroy everything. See. Chapter 13 I'll handle the demons. Demons. Sato muttered to himself, he overheard what the dark elf was saying to his people. Helix, could these be the same demons those women who locked me up were worried about? Sato inquired of his system. Less than question confirmed, it seems unlikely that they are the same, but in terms of race they are greater than. I should take a closer hearing. He murmured before heading over to the crowd. Calm down Dekka, breath, Goran said as he used his hand to rub Dekka's hair, trying to calm him down. Everyone could see the way he was panting, while some were terrified others were angry and frustrated. I'm sorry Chief, Dekka uttered, but I couldn't stop them. They came in demanding another set of women but we already told them we have none to spare, they chose not to listen and began to take them by force but then a girl in black dressing protected us. He uttered. Black dressing, Devanshi questioned. Yes milady, she protected us, and now the demons plan to wipe out our village if we don't pay what we owe, even with you by our side milady, we can't win a war against them. Dekka reported with his eyes facing the ground. I guess, they finally lost their patience with us. Goran muttered to himself, they could all see the sad expression on his face. Chief, what should we do? I'm willing to fight if you tell me to, if it's for the safety of our people, I'll gladly raise my sword. Elena uttered as she moved toward the Goran. Goran was still confused about the whole thing, the thought of his village going to the ground especially now that Devanshi refused to rule began weighing on him. Chief, Elena called out again, this time she knelt down in front of him, I won't hesitate to sacrifice my life for the village, so please give me the order. Goran turned to look at her, but he had already given up, we don't have. What are you all so worried about? Sato interrupted, drawing everyone's attention to his side. He stretched out his hand and a scythe materialized, I'll take care of the demons, but I need you to do something for me. He said. Devanshi was surprised but was also smiling, almost like she had been waiting for him to say those exact words. Walking over to the dark elf that was on the ground, Sato proceeded to hand him the scythe he was holding. The dark elf was confused as to why Sato was giving him such a weapon, sir. I don't. While I try to chase the demons away, I want you all to hide here and don't come out, Sato uttered, I am lending you to this scythe in case you manage to run into a demon while hiding. Do you plan to help us? Goran asked. Of course I do, come on Devanshi, let's go slay some demons. Sato uttered before dashing back to the village. He began to make his way to the village, speeding through the trees with Devanshi following behind him. 3, no 5, I can sense 5 new magic sources, they must be the demon. Sato thought to himself. Are you sure about this master? Devanshi asked as she also whooshed past the trees. Of course, don't tell me the Might Phoenix is scared. Sato responded. Unlikely, but if you attack the village, there's no doubt the demons will come back at full force. She uttered again. That was exactly why I told them to wait behind, as of now, I'm still a passerby who just happened to run into some demon while exploring the village. Sato smiled, he couldn't hide the excitement he was feeling. As soon as he came out of the last tree, the first thing he saw was a girl dressed in black, crushing the wrist of a demon. The demon was screaming in pain as it struggled to get free from her grip, she had a sinister grin on her lips, almost like she was enjoying every moment of it. Is that? Sato muttered. Looking to the left, he could see 4 demos standing in the middle of the village. They looked just like any human, the only exception was the fact that they all had glowing pupils, each having different colors and horns. One of the demons, dressed in a black uniform and having beside him a sword, yelled as he held a female elf in his hand. Grabbing her by the hair, he aimed his sword at her throat. Who the hell are you? The demon yelled. The lady in the black dress threw the demon she was holding to the ground, leaving him to wail in pain before changing her focus to the demon in front of her. She didn't utter anything, instead, she just kept walking toward the demon with black mist surrounding her body. What the hell is she? She took my guard out in less than a minute, are the elves having help now? The demon thought to himself. Stand back, he yelled, stand back or I'll slit her throat, right here and now. He pulled the female's hair up, leaving her to scream in pain as her legs dangled in the air. But the black-dressed girl didn't stop, she continued her approach and was slowly increasing her speed. That was until she heard a voice call out to her, enough Reaper, come back. The voice said. She suddenly turned to see Sato walking toward her and her frowned expression suddenly turned into a bashful one. Master, she stammered as she watched him move closer to her. You evolved so quickly, you can leave the rest to me now. He said, patting her head as he walked past her. She looked to the ground with her face beet red from the action before she glared at the demon Sato was heading to. Yo, Sato voiced with his right hand raised. And who are you? The demon asked. I'm just a traveler looking for a place to settle in today, you look well dressed, are you from the capital? He asked with a smile. Tamron Gioho, I am an imperial knight of the Fiora Kingdom, call the village chief out here, I'd like to have a word. Tamron yelled. The chief. I didn't know this village had a chief. Sato uttered while looking around the village. The hell, you think I'm playing, I'll slit her throat right here, losing one elf wouldn't hurt, Tamron said with a grin. Behind him, 2 of his men had 3 other female elves that they've tied to the ground. Come now, don't go that far, Sato smiled as he voiced in a soothing way but was interrupted. Shut up. Tamron used the side of his sword to push a bit deeper into the female's neck causing her to bleed a bit. Start talking. The sight of the female elf crying from the cut she got on her neck was slowly starting to build up rage in Sato. He looked at Tamron with fury written in his eyes, oh but I think you misunderstood me. He uttered as he moved toward the demons. The chief you are looking for, is standing right in front of you. He said with a smile, let go off the cupcake. Chapter 14 The Scythe won victory. Elena had a small green leaf in her hands which she used to rub the little scratches on Dekka's body. The leaf was normally used to heal injuries and stop poisons, but for some reason, it wasn't given a name, this was due to the fact that few people knew about it. Is this okay? Elena asked, rubbing the leaf on the small cut that was eating on Dekka's face. He smiled before taking the leaf from her hand and rubbing it himself, thank you, Elena. He muttered, but his saddened look was still eating on him. Elena stood up and couldn't help but stare at the scythe Sato gave Dekka, she picked it up with a curious look on her face. Chief, I don't feel right doing this. She uttered as she turned to face the chief who was seated on the ground. What do you mean? The red-haired female elf inquired. Making an outsider fight not 1, but 2 of our battles for us, it's unacceptable and disgraceful. Elena glared at the scythe. I understand but these are the demons we are talking about, one of the most dominant races, it was either that or we watch our people die, Dekka voiced out. I know that but still, Elena mumbled while still looking at the scythe. The safety of our people will always come first, we have lost too many men and women to the demons, we can't let that happen anymore. Goran uttered with his eyes focused on the sky. Mummy, is there going to be a fight? A kid looking the age of 11, although when compared to the elves' aging system, one could say he's about 6 years old. The woman standing beside the boy went to her knees before placing her hand on his shoulder. Everything's going to be alright sweetie, don't worry about it. She muttered with a smile. Elena heard footsteps running toward their location, she dashed toward where the woman was while yelling, move away from there. Both the woman and the boy looked at Elena with bewilderment on their faces, that was until they saw the frightened expression on the rest of the elves. The woman immediately looked to her back to see a demon with a crazy grin on his face leap toward her. Without hesitation, she pushed the boy away from danger and was ready to take the danger head on. The demon sliced her chest with his sword, sending her falling to the ground as her blood began to spew from the cut. Elena was still running, even though she wasn't fast enough to save the woman, tears dropped from her cheeks as she yelled in rage. The demon began to laugh as his red eyes glowed, oh my, never met a race so pathetic before. He uttered. Elena dashed toward him while pulling her short katana from its sheath, she took a huge jump and sent a sharp attack with her short blade. The demon was able to block it with his sword which he held with one hand, know your place your filth. He yelled before booting Elena to the ground. Her back slammed on the ground and her sword flew away from her grip as she bounced. The rest of the elves packed themselves to a spot, shivering in fear as they watched the demon close in on Elena. Elena struggled to get up, just that one kick had made her insides twist in pain, the blood dripping from her mouth was a dead giveaway. Where's that strength of yours you had a minute ago, don't tell me it's gone now. The demon yelled as he sent another kick to Elena's stomach. Her body sprung to the sky as blood spewed out of her mouth before hitting the ground back. Fight back damn it, don't make this boring. The demon yelled again, stomping his foot continuously on Elena's head. Come on, fight back. Fight back, you pig. The demon kept trash talking. Alina's face had been completely damaged with bruises and all she could do was lay on the ground and kept receiving the attacks. Goran looked away from the scene as he couldn't bear to watch any longer. He knew if he spoke, the demon would come targeting the rest. So he just sat as he desperately ignored the smashing sounds he was hearing. He could even hear the slight sobbing Elena was giving out. I'm sorry, Chief, but I can't bear to watch her suffer anymore. Dekka stood to his feet as he grabbed the scythe on the ground and dashed toward the demon screaming. The rest of the village called out to him, begging him to turn back, but he played a blind ear and continued his approach. Even his fiancée, the elf with the red hair, begged as she cried, but that still didn't stop him from running to Alina's rescue. Get your hands off her, you bastard! Dekka yelled. The demon immediately turned and swung his sword at Dekka with an ominous grin on his lips. Dekka still didn't waver. He swung the scythe he was holding with all his might and was somehow able to slice both the demon's hand and the sword together. The demon fell to the ground with a horrified look on his face as he watched his hand and sword fall to the ground. My hand. You cut my fucking hand. The demon yelled in pain. Ah, you bastard. Dekka held the scythe in front of him as he also was surprised. Just now, the power I felt was from this weapon. He thought to himself. Yes, brother did it. Finish him, brother. One of the kids cried out. Dekka turned back to see the surprised look on their faces covered in the happiness they were feeling, a victory they'd been hoping to have. Everyone, Dekka muttered as he looked at Goran, who in turn sent a warm smile at him. He immediately turned to face the demon as he held the scythe tighter. I can do it, I can win. He yelled. The demon stood to his feet as red energy began to surround his body. Don't get cocky just because of one lucky shit. He yelled. With a boom, they whooshed past themselves with a huge slash following after. While Dekka was covered in a dark mist, the demon was covered in red energy. A wild wind blew past both their paths. Dekka then stood up from his knees and turned to look at the demon. The demon had a terrified look on his face as looked to the ground. No way. His head went falling to the ground alongside all the trees beside him. Dekka looked at his people and saw how shocked they were. He then looked at the scythe as tears dropped from his eyes. He raised it to the sky with a smile. I did it. He yelled. They all ran to him, jumping and giving him a hug as they all cried their hearts out. Elena rested her back in the tree as she looked at the demon's head on the floor. He killed a demon. She muttered. Thank you, you are truly a blessing, Lord Zeno, Goran uttered while watching the village people crying alongside Dekka. Chapter 15 Yuri the Death Angel. Dekka stood up from the ground and looked at Goran to see the proud expression on his face. I did it, I killed a demon. He muttered in excitement. Dekka, you were amazing, but how were you able to move like that? The red-haired elf asked as she moved away from him. I don't know, I just did. He responded with his gaze focused on the scythe. It's safe to say, there's some kind of magic boost in that scythe, Elena uttered and stood to her feet, holding her broken arm as she drew closer. You really think so? Dekka asked. Elena shook her head in agreement. Since now we know you can take on a demon, we should go lend our helper a hand. She muttered looking at Goran to see if he objects. Goran smiled. You can, but be careful, I wish you good luck, I won't be any help. He said looking at Elena's damaged body but hid the sadness he was felt. Thank you, Chief, okay, let's go. She said, picking her blade on the ground with a grunt. Oh no, there's no way I'm letting you go, look at yourself. The red-haired elf uttered. Elena smiled before turning to look at her. All fine, Latina, I do have healing magic, you know. She said. I don't remember your healing magic being strong enough to heal broken bones. Latina voiced before sighing. I'll go with him. Are you stupid? Elena yelled. I refuse. Dekka yelled alongside Elena. You're pregnant, you idiot. What kind of man sends his pregnant wife to fight demons? He yelled again. Latina grunted. What the hell do you want me to do then? Look at her, she can't even walk properly. She yelled back. Look, I get it, you wanna help, but you can't. Not when you are carrying a child, Dekka said with a soft tone. Agree with them, you shouldn't go. Goran interrupted. Chief, Latina called out, you know this is the best cause, it's either this or we run. She uttered. You are not going, we will all be coming with you, it's our village and we all should put in equal efforts. Goran voiced. Chief. Both Dekka and Elena yelled in unison. Latina immediately looked at Dekka with a smug look on her face which led to Dekka sighing at the thought of his wife going into battle. Yay, we are going to go kick some demon butt. One of the kid elves yelled. Chief, you have to reconsider. Elena voiced out, we don't know if the demos have. She paused when they all suddenly heard a feminine scream coming from the village. That was Diana, Latina muttered before dashing toward the village. Latina, come back, Dekka yelled before chasing after her. Elena did the same, with her blade in her hand, she ran after them, while the rest of the village followed. Dekka arrived at the cliff and he could see the whole village below him. Just to his left, he spotted Latina hiding behind the boulder as she spied on the demons. Latina, she immediately hushed him, keep it down, quick come see something. She whispered. Dickie moved closer to her and went to his knees, peeping from the side to look at what was going on. The rest of the village joined in not long after to also have a peek at what Dekka and Latina were looking at. Sato stood in front of the demon. Look, I'm not looking for conflict if that's at all possible, all I'm asking you to do is release the girl. He said. You must think you are some kind of hot stuff. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I've lost my patience. The demon uttered. He tossed the girl he was holding over to his men and began to approach Xeno with his sword covered in magic. Should we go help him? Latina whispered as she peeped. I don't know, he said specifically to not come in unless he gave the go-ahead, Elena whispered back. I don't know, taking two demons at once is a big deal. Dekka said. He took on a god bird, I doubt they are any stronger. Goran muttered. Sato's Grim Reaper could sense the elves from afar, so all she did was look at them before changing her focus back to Sato. Sato gave a sigh. I just said, I wanted to avoid conflict, you keep doing the opposite of what I ask for. He muttered. Shut your mouth, you brat. The demon yelled and launched himself toward Sato, looking to land a strike. Unexpectedly, Devanshi whooshed to the front with a grin on her lips and fire swarming around her body. The demon was shocked, but he was moving too fast for him to make a quick stop. Who the hell is this? Screw it, I don't care. He held his sword tighter and swung it at her. To his surprise, Devanshi broke his sword with just a punch. His eyes widened as he watched her move to his left and land a kick to his spine. She was moving twice his speed, which led to the massive wind that blew after. The demon's body went tumbling to the ground before she smashed into one of the tiny huts in the village. Sir Zong, the two demons called out before leaving the elves and running toward him. Good job, Sato praised as he smiled at Devanshi. She gave a smug look in return. Did you expect anything less from the almighty Devanshi? She uttered with a loud laugh. Sato smiled. He then turned to face the female Grim Reaper. He stared at her for a while before sighing. Helix, does she by any chance have a name? He asked. Less than negative, you have not blessed her with a name. Naming one's servant is essential in this world to heighten their growth as beings greater than. I see, Sato went into thinking. Okay, how about, oh I know Yuri. He muttered with a proud look. Less than Death Angel confirmed as, Yuri greater than. Wait, Death Angel, I thought she was a Grim Reaper. Sato shouted. Less than negative, Grim Reaper went through evolution after summoning, hence accumulated a gender to fit your needs and evolved into a divine beast, Death Angel greater than. Awesome, he murmured, in that care, Yuri. He called out. Yuri walked toward Sato and immediately went to her knees with her head bowed. The gesture startled him at first, but he chose to ignore it. I need you to transport these villagers back to their people in the forest. He said. Yuri looked up at Sato. Master, are you perhaps referring to them? She asked before pointing to the cliff. Dekka and the rest tried to hide when they saw Sato look over to their side, but were able to see them with the help of his skill perception. He could see their heat wave through the rock. What the hell are they doing? He muttered, with his eyes brown twitching in annoyance. Chapter 16 Sato versus the demons. Yuri walked over to the four female elves that were sitting on the ground and still feeling terrified from the previous event. Yuri stood in front of them for a while before lowering her body and lifting one of the elves from the ground. The elf wailed in fear as Yuri lifted her up from the ground, and in the blink of an eye, the elf dematerialized alongside Yuri. The remaining elves that were on the ground all stood up in shock as they wondered where they went. Latina and Elena were still peeping and hiding on the cliff while the rest of the elves were seated. Look, guys, I think we've done enough, Dekka uttered. He had his back resting on the rock with the scythe on his leg. Don't tell me you wanna give up now. What happened to your intuition? Latina replied. No, I think he's right. Rather than waiting here, we should just go in there and help. Elena added her thoughts. With a sigh, Latina ceased her spying and rested her back on the rock. All right, fine, whatever you say. She responded. The whole place went quiet for a while, and to their surprise, a dark mist suddenly appeared in front of them. They all put their guard up. Daka grabbed his scythe while Alana had her hand positioned on her sword. The rest of the elves all stood to their feet immediately and moved closer to Goran to defend themselves. Once the mist cleared out, Yuri walked out with the female elf in her hands. Dana, Latina muttered, feeling surprised. Yuri placed her on the floor and dematerialized again before the remaining elves could start asking questions. Dekka drew back his scythe the same as Elena, who had a relieved look on her face after seeing one of her friends. Diana, Latina yelled before dashing toward her and giving her a hug. Are you okay? Are you hurt? I hope they didn't, do anything. Latina kept throwing her questions. I'm fine, Dana responded, with tears rolling down her cheeks. The rest of the elves smiled at the sight as Yuri kept bringing more of the elves to the site. Meanwhile, Sato was still in the village monitoring the way his death angel was going back and forth to transport the elves. Who knew saving a village full of elves from a couple of demons would be so easy? Sato thought to himself, but still. He looked at where Tamrin's body was and saw that he was already on his feet with his guards beside him. And he's up. I don't want this to escalate more than it already has. I'll have to do something. Sato muttered. I'll take them on if you're not up for it. I despise demons anyway. I wouldn't mind beating one still kingdom come. Devanshi uttered as she stood beside Sato. Yuri suddenly appeared beside Sato. I have completed my task, Lord Sato. Do you request anything of me? She asked. No, not really. Sato responded. Right now, I have to make sure these demons don't cause any harm. He thought to himself. Less than notice, immense boost in power coming from demon greater than. Sato immediately looked at the demon to see that all their bodies were brimming with magic energy. Shit, they still wanna fight. Sato yelled inward from the surprise. Let go. Tamrin yelled as he yanked his arms away from his soldier's grip, his eyes were full of rage and focused on Sato. You bastard. You are going to pay for embarrassing me like that, I'm going to make you wish you never crossed paths with me. Tamrin yelled. Figures he'd target me. Sato sighed, oh well, seems there's no helping it, fighting is unavoidable at this point. He uttered as he began to walk toward Tamrin. Nice, I'll join you. No, you stay back. Sato interrupted Devanshi, I'll handle this one myself, he said while still making his advance. Helix, can you show me critical points to hit on this demon, you know, to leave him somewhat hurt but not dead, Sato asked. Less than question confirmed, striking opponent close to the clavicle would rather him paralyzed for a few minutes greater than. The fuck is a clavicle? Sato asked. Less than the collarbone in layman terms greater than. Sato gave an awkward smirk, I feel like she just mocked me. He uttered. Get ready you little piece of shit, I'm about to turn you into a beating example for the elves. Tamrin laughed. He screamed as his body began to flow with more magic and his muscles were growing bigger with time. Sato just stood there looking at him with a poker face, okay, first of all, big cap. Second, before I turn you into a beating lesson, I have one question to ask you. Sato voiced out. Shut your mouth, Tamrin yelled, he launched himself toward Sato at full speed, leaving his back covered in dust. Sato instantly tilted his body to the side, evading one of the punches Tamrin threw at him, I haven't even asked myself a question yet. Sato muttered. Quit talking, you insect. Tamrin yelled again, this time he slammed his hands on the ground, causing the earth L to split in two. The crack was speeding to where Sato stood, Sato just casually leapt to the sky to avoid falling into the hole. While he was in midair, one of the demons was already behind him, got ya. The demon yelled as he swung his sword. Sato held the sword with his palm before it could do any damage to his neck, he then turned to look at the demon. Sorry, but I already sensed you coming, Sato uttered. Incarnate. The sword Sato held began to turn to ashes and it was spreading toward the demon's fingers. The demon immediately let go and fell to the ground on his feet while looking at the tip of his finger which was now ash and blowing away with the wind. He burnt my finger with a touch. The demon questioned as he looked to the sky. Sato also came falling to the ground, only to look beside him and see a fully charged dark energy ball charging toward him from the other demon. Sliding against the ground, Sato held out his hand, Predator. A rush of dark mist poured out of his hand and began to devour the fire. After a few seconds, the dark mist had already completely gobbled up all the energy, leaving nothing but the whooshing sound the mist made as it returned to Sato's hands. The demons that had surrounded him all had their jaws dropped at the sight, even the elves watching were completely shocked. Now, where were we? Sato muttered with hands raised to the sky and a huge ball of dark energy began to form, causing a massive wind to blow around the area. Chapter 17 Sato vs the Demon 2. Tamrin moved back a bit, damn it, he looks stronger now, what gives? He muttered while he looked at his men's faces one by one. I dare not think about it, but do I have to retreat? Bullshit. Tamrin scoffed at the thought. He charged toward Sato with his body enveloped in his magic energy. Listen to me, I need you guys to distract him while I go for the kill. Tamrin yelled. Why yes, sir. They both responded and also darted straight at Sato's position. Are they for real? Damn it, I thought they'd try to retreat by now, Sato thought to himself as he stood in the center while they charged toward him from three sides. I guess I have no choice then, Sato muttered with a deep breath following right after. Tamrin had almost gotten close to Sato and could no longer hide his grin. I told you not to get cocky over one lucky hit. He yelled. Just after taking another step, a force of wind blew both he and his men away. Tamrin's back went crashing to the ground before he lost his grip on the sword. What the hell? Tamrin yelled as he looked at the huge beast in front of him. It's a divine beast. Sato, still in the middle of the demons, had transformed into a gigantic phoenix, with red burning fire surrounding his body. Devanshi gave out a loud laugh. Wow. Master, that's amazing, she shouted. Yuri just stood beside her with a look of admiration on her face and her eyes light green from the excitement she was feeling. Sato gave out a shriek as he moved closer to Tamrin while the fire around his body intensified with the scream. God bird, Tamrin muttered while he looked at Sato's phoenix from, a real divine beast. Yeah, so what? I'm not leaving, till I bring you down, you hear me? Tamrin yelled. He stood to his feet before grabbing his sword from the ground. With a raging scream, he charged toward Sato, only to have both his men run toward him and lift him up. Hey, what are you doing? Put me down, Tamrin yelled while he struggled to free himself. I'm sorry, sire, but we have to retreat, if you die it will be on us. One of his men yelled as he ran with Tamrin on his shoulder. Put me down, damn it. I'm not done with him, put me down. Tamrin kept screaming. The demons ran away as fast as they could on foot, the thought of them taking their horses didn't cross their minds since they were running for their life. Well, I'm glad that worked. Sato muttered to himself. With a burst of flame Sato transformed back to his human form before landing softly on both his feet. As soon as he landed, he felt a slight dizziness in his eyes. Easy. Well, Helix did tell me the form was going to consume a lot of mana. Way to go, master. Sato looked back to see Devanshi running toward him while Yuri just appeared by his side. Devanshi straight to him, you were amazing master. The way you ate the demon's attack was just, wow. I bet they were scared as hell. She laughed. Sato smiled while scratching the back of his head, well, praise me more. He laughed. Yuri nodded her head with her eyes sparkling with admiration, I also think master's amazing. She muttered. I'm getting praised by two beautiful girls, oh can life really get any sweeter? Sato uttered as he entered a state of pleasure. Less than notice, heart rate racing exponentially, this normally indicates the sign of hormones RC2 greater than. Shut up Helix. Sato yelled, geez, don't ruin this with your weird analysis. He muttered. Lord Sato. Sato suddenly heard a masculine voice call out to him, he turned to check and a surprising look hit his face. When he turned, he saw the whole elf village on their knees with their heads bowed. Sato moved back a bit startled from the sight. Hey, guys, what's up? He asked hesitantly. Lord Sato. Yeah, Sato replied with a nervous look on his face. It would be an honor, Lord Sato, if you considered being our leader. Goran shouted. What about the 1-week test? Sato asked. You have proven yourself over and over again, we fully acknowledge you, Lord Sato, please be our leader. Deka voiced out. Sato immediately had a serious look on his face, I never thought about this before, but the village does look like a mess, shouldn't there be a king for something like this? He asked. Less than the elf village is located on the outskirt of the kingdom, they don't pay nor do they plan to help a village that holds no importance to them. Greater than. Sato scoffed, so they sent demons to take their women, and yet they don't plan to help grow the village, politics will be politics I guess, he muttered to himself. Less than negative, the village involved in the abduction of the women isn't the kingdom itself greater than. It's not. Then who? Sato was interrupted by the shirt pull Devanshi actioned, she looked him in the eye, won't you give your reply master? She asked. Sato changed his focus from her to the elves, he sighed before giving out a smile, with pleasure, you don't have to worry about a thing. He said. The elves all looked up with excitement on their faces as they stood to their feet to rejoice. Goran walked toward Sato, thank you, Lord Sato, I'll forever be in your debts. He uttered. No, it's nothing, it really is, Sato replied with a smile. Deka used the opportunity to approach Sato with the scythe in his hands, Lord Sato. He called out. Sato hummed as he looked at the scythe in Deka's hand, you can keep it. He said. Deka paused, Lord Sato, are you sure, it's a very powerful weapon? He yelled. Yes I'm sure, keep it, Sato repeated. Deka with a smile, bowed his head, thank you, Lord Sato, thank you. He yelled as he ran away. Sato looked to the sky, Helix, you better get ready, you and I, we are going to rebuild this village till it becomes a paradise, he uttered. Less than understood greater than. Chapter 18 I Sato your lord. Look at his face, he looks so cute when he's asleep. A feminine voice spoke. Please refrain from touching my master with your dirty hand while he's asleep. Another feminine voice uttered. So you don't want to know how soft his skin is. It's very soft. Sato was still asleep but he could feel someone poking his cheeks with their finger, what the hell is going on? He thought to himself. Well, I guess one poke wouldn't hurt. Sato unexpectedly opened his eyes to see Yuri's face leaning toward him and her finger drawing close to his cheeks. What are you doing? Sato asked with the poker face he was letting out. Watching you sleep. Yuri replied. Why would you be watching me sleep? Sato raised another question with a calm face. Quote. Because I'm watching you sleep. Yuri replied with the same response. That doesn't answer my question. He yelled before giving Yuri a headbutt which drove her to the ground. She used both her hands to cover where Sato hit her before looking up at him. Are you upset, master? Yuri asked in a soft tone. Sato sighed. No I'm not, it's just creepy when someone watches you while you sleep. He replied. Yuri looked to the ground with a sad face, master does not like it when I watch him. She asked with a sad tone. Sato sighed again, and you, what are you doing on top of me? He asked Devanshi who was seated on his stomach. She stared at him for a while before giving a smile with her tongue sticking out as she knocked the side of her head. With a twitch of his eyebrow, Sato threw both Devanshi and Yuri outside before shutting the door behind him. Damn it, what's with those girls? He questioned as he looked around to see the haze on the floor and different kinds of attire on the ground. Good morning Helix, Sato greeted. Less than morning host greater than. I told you to stop calling me that, just call me Sato, he uttered. Less than confirmed, good morning Lord Sato greater than. Sato gave another weak sigh, this place needs a lot of work, I wonder how much I can cover today. Sato said as he reached for his top. Before he wore it, he looked at how tattered the clothes were, the down part had been burnt off and it had already lost most of its texture. He wore the cloth gently in order not to damage it even more. Helix, time to work, show me today's plan. He muttered while heading to the door. Less than firstly I should inform you about the skills you gained after becoming a chief. Greater than. Sato paused, I gained some skills again. At this point, I'm starting to think I gain skills in everything I do. He uttered, fine, let me hear it. Less than request confirmed. Skills gained after raising in status. Master. Sub-skills. Record, grants you the ability to access all aspects of your memory and also relay commands to subordinates. Subordinates, keeps track of all underlings, including power levels, weaknesses, and dislikes. King's will, underlings grow stronger depending on how loyal they are to you. If one does prove disloyalty, is immediately unregistered by the record. Skill greater than. Well, that explains why everything seems more understanding. I did notice I was remembering more of my world. Sato uttered before he continued his advance. Less than today's task. Purifying water source, environmental sanitation, and crop rotation. These are the tasks you assigned for today. Greater than. Then let's get right to it, he said before opening the door and walking out of the warehouse. Devanshi and Yuri were still outside, so when they spotted Sato leaving the warehouse, they immediately followed behind him. Master, are you still upset? Yuri asked while she walked beside him. Of course not, I'm not upset, forget it. Okay, Sato replied. Devanshi laughed. Master, are you sorry? She asked. Shut up. Once they got to the center of the village, they met the elves walking in the small fabric they were wearing and sitting around the big pot that was on fire. Sato walked in. What are you guys doing? He asked. They all looked at him as soon as his voice was heard. Good morning, Lord Sato. They greeted him. Goran left the stirring of the food for Diana before walking to Sato's position. Lord Sato, we were just about to call you for breakfast, he uttered. Nice, what are you cooking? Sato asked. Porridge, Goran replied. I see, Sato muttered with his eyes glancing past the elves that were seated around the pot. Come, Lord Sato, we left a spot just for you, Goran said before leading Sato to his spot in the circle. Sato sat down with Devanshi and Yuri sitting beside him while they waited for the food to arrive. Sato noticed that Deka wasn't around, but he could sense the scythe was somewhere around the village. Less than notice, villagers have not been registered to be subordinates. Greater than. What? Sato yelled in his mind. Less than my attempt to register them as such failed when you requested for me to put it on hold till you awoke from your sleep. Greater than. Oh yeah, I did say that, didn't I? Sato gave out an awkward smile while scratching the back of his head. Less than shall I carry on with the registration? Greater than. Sure, Sato replied. Sato stood up from the ground and walked over to the left side of the circle. Yo guys, listen up, I need everyone to stay in a straight line, he yelled. They all looked at him with confusion, but none of them tried to question him. They stood up and began to line up in front of him. I didn't think they'd be this obedient, Sato thought to himself as he watched them line up. Deka walked in with a bag of potatoes in his hands. Good morning, Lord Sato, what is going on here? He asked. Great, you're here to join the line, Sato uttered. Once everyone had lined up and were now in an orderly manner, Sato smiled. Okay Helix, do your thing, he uttered. Less than confirmed. Entering auto mode. Greater than. Sato's eyes suddenly turned red. He stretched out his hand as he looked at the elves in front of him. I want you to repeat after me, and please inject your name in these words. I hereby accept Sato Inagami to be my lord and will follow his word to the bitter end with all faith and honesty. They all looked at each other, feeling hesitant to say it. That was until Deka took the initiative. He walked forward with the scythe in his hand. I, Deka, pledge to serve Lord Sato with all honesty and faith, he uttered. He immediately fell to his knees as his body began to glow. Latina ran toward him. Deka, what's wrong? Are you all right? She asked as she panicked. When the glow had gone, Deka's appearance shocked the rest of the village, leaving their jaws dropped. Deka looked completely different. His hair was longer and the immense magic flowing around his body was powerful enough for Devanshi to react to. I feel different. What is this power I'm feeling? Deka uttered as he stared at his hands. Chapter 19, A New Village. Once Deka had said his vow, the rest of the villagers didn't feel hesitant anymore. One by one they began saying theirs. Once they were done, their transformation began. They were more healthy and beautiful, and while the females were sexier, the males were more attractive. Each of them had a small crystal resting on the center of their forehead which had different colors depending on each individual. Wow, Elena, you look different, Dana yelled in excitement as she stared at Elena. Elena smiled. I do feel different, it's like, I'm connected to him, it's kinda awesome, she uttered with her focus aimed at Sato. Goran walked toward the elves mist with a smile on his face. I think this is the power of Lord Sato, we should pay our gratitude, he uttered. They were all stunted at his new appearance. He looked way younger with a handsome face to go with his attractive body. Chief, is that you? Latina asked with a stunted expression. She moved closer to him and began to poke his arm. Goran laughed. I'm quite shocked myself. I never would have thought the day would come when I could actually walk without my stick, he responded. Sato gained his control back and before he could take another step he fell to the ground. Master, are you okay? Yuri uttered and immediately appeared by his side. Hey, Master, what's wrong? She asked again. The rest of the villagers spotted him and ran to his side also, leaving Devanshi standing close to the pot while she drooled at the porridge. Sato grabbed Yuri's hand and pulled it close to his chest. Why, Yuri? He called out in a weak tone. Yes, Master, Yuri responded dramatically. Sato slowly pointed at the big pot of potatoes and coughed. Give me food. He chose his words. Sato sat down on the tree log alongside the rest of the villagers and began eating the porridge that was served to him in a wooden bowl. He dropped the bowl on the ground after he had finished eating and gave out a relieved sigh. Oh God, I'll never take food for granted again, I haven't eaten since I arrived here. He uttered. Do you need more, Lord Sato? Diana asked. She was seated in the circle but was willing to get up if Sato requested of her. No, I'm good, Sato grunted as he stood to his feet. Helix, share the details of the plan with them. He uttered. Less than request confirmed, using skill record to share information of project growth greater than. Less than linked. Greater than. All the elves suddenly got new information gathering in their brains. Is this? Dicky muttered before looking at Sato. I take it you all got the message. Sato said, those are the plans of how we are going to run this village, I did promise 1 week. He smiled. They all stood to her feet with motivation written all over their faces before they bowed. Thank you, Lord Sato. They said in unison. For the whole week, the villagers worked very hard as they followed each and every order that Sato gave. First of all, Sato made a move in purifying the dirty water with the advice he got from his helix system. Using bamboo sticks and leaves, he built a huge tank in a pipe with the bamboo sticks, so some of the water from the river would automatically run through the bamboo sticks and into the leaf tank. But before the water would enter the sticks, he altered a piece of clothing using his skill altar to act as a purifying agent and placed it in the mouth of the bamboo stick. The water flowed from the river and straight into the stick, where it got purified before entering the tank as clean and fresh water. He then linked the tanks to several more tanks, each having different clothing with different altars, one for cold water, one for hot water, and one linked directly to the small farm which helped the plants grow faster. Once he was done with that, he asked Devanshi and Diana to go pack as many fruits as they could get from the forest, but they were only able to get watermelon, apples, and grapes. Using this fruit, Sato started a crop circle with them. Helix already informed him which season was for which, so he knew how to handle it. He placed a female elf named Nishida in charge of the water source, while Gambi, a male young elf, was in charge of the trees. 1.5 week after development. Sato heard from Goran about some animals known as deerhugs. They were hard to catch, hence the reason why no one bothered to catch them. They were incredibly smart and fast, but they were also very rare and delicious. Sato was already bored of eating potatoes all day and wanted to try out some meat, so he went for it. Sato, Deka, Elena, and Yuri went to try to catch some deerhugs while Devanshi and Diana tried to sell the cold water they had to the neighboring village. Once Sato and his subordinates arrived at the site, they could see hundreds of deerhugs feeding on the grasses. Wow, awesome, they look like buffaloes. Sato wowed at the sight. The field was whole and filled with grasses and deerhugs. Buffaloes. What's that, my lord? Deka asked. Sato looked at him and paused as he thought of what to say. They are huge beasts with big horns like this. He described while gesturing. Deka was shocked. As expected of you, my lord, you've even dealt with monstrous beasts with horns. He praised. Sato gave out an awkward laugh before turning to face the deerhugs. Helix stats, he uttered as he moved closer. Less than request confirmed. They are deerhugs, extremely hard and rare creatures. Catching one will need a well thought out plan as they all work together for their survival. Greater than. I see, okay, then I'm going to use the lion style of hunting, should be fun. Sato smirked and turned to the rest. Okay, listen up, here's the plan. What are a bunch of stupid elves doing here? He was suddenly interrupted by a group of people riding their horses toward the field. They stopped in front of Sato and his subordinates. A blonde-haired man got down from the horses with his men following behind him. Oh hey there, Sato greeted. Shut up, the blonde-haired man yelled. I asked you a question, what are you doing here? Sato twitched his eyes brown in annoyance. Did he just call me off? He muttered to himself. I should handle this with care, they remind me a lot of bullies back in my world. Sato thought to himself as he stared at the man. I wouldn't want some kind of way breaking out. Yuri suddenly walked past Sato with her body oozing with dark mana. I dare you to say that again, please do, I would love to have your head as a gift for my master. She said with a crazy smile on her face. Idiot, Sato yelled in his mind. Chapter 20. A vampire for the hunt. The blonde-haired man looked at Yuri with a grin on his lips. I don't hurt women, but could make an exception. He uttered. Too bad I can't say the same, I will happily help rearrange your teeth for you, Yuri responded. Sato immediately walked to the middle with a nervous smile on his face. Can't we all just get along? We came here to hunt. I already told you to shut up. The blonde-haired man yelled before sending a punch in Sato's direction. A rough breeze blew as soon as the man's kick made contact with Sato's arm, which he used to block the attack. Yuri immediately ran toward the man and kicked him in the stomach, which sent him flying in the midst of the remaining men. Sato wiggled his arm a bit. That dude is strong, didn't know humans packed quite a punch. He thought to himself. Deka and Elena ran to Sato's side immediately. Lord Sato, are you okay? Deka asked. I'm fine, but do you know who they are? Sato asked. I'm afraid not, my lord, we never left the village for any reason, but I guess the chief might know a few things. Deka replied. I see, Sato muttered. Helix, what can you pick up? Less than nothing at the moment, not enough analysis has been made. Greater than. Well, hurry it up, we got some bullies in our hands. He uttered again. Less than understood. Greater than. A sudden clap from within the midst of the men began to go resonate from the group of men. Sato and his subordinates were immediately drawn to the action. The men had slid open a path for a red-haired man to pass through while the blonde was still on the ground. The red-haired man had red mythic eyes and was wearing a red-on-black outfit with a red robe to complement his majestic look. The man clapped his way out of the group before finally arriving in front of Sato. Sato himself could feel the intense energy pouring from the man's body. But Sato didn't show any sign of fear. Instead, he just looked him in the eyes. I can tell, this guy's bad news. Way to go, Helix. What kind of stupid senses did you give me? Less than analysis complete greater than. Great. Let me hear it. Sato responded. Less than they are none is Nosferatu, a race of vampires that reside in the city of Namlurk. It's 5 miles away from here. Greater than. Vampires, didn't think I'd see one in a fantasy world, to be honest. Sato thought to himself. The red-haired man suddenly smiled. I take it you also came here for hunting? He asked. Sato was still shocked at the unexpected behavior. Yes, of course, that's why we are here. He responded. The man turned his attention toward the deer hugs. Quite the beast they are, intriguing, even a duke such as myself still breaks a sweat trying to catch one. He uttered. Duke? Sato questioned. Oh, I guess I haven't introduced myself. My name is Vlad, the leader of the Forever Knights of Vampires. It's a pleasure to meet you. Vlad stretched out his hand for a handshake. Sato shook with hesitation. Likewise, the name is Sato Inagami, leader of the elves. He introduced. The rest of the vampires behind Vlad gasped in shock. Sato was forced to look at them as he felt confused by their sudden action. I apologize for that. I would be lying if I said I wasn't also shocked. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you just called out 2 names. How is that possible? Vlad asked. 2 names. You mean a surname? He also raised a question back. Less than notice, the concept of surnames does not apply to this world. Beings are often brought to this world with a single name to identify themselves. Having 2 names has never been heard of or practiced greater than. You did just call yourself Sasio Inagiha, did you not? Vlad asked. Sato laughed awkwardly. It's Sato Inagami, he corrected. How can a person only bear a single name? How do they carry the family tradition and the likes? Are you alright? Vlad asked when he noticed that Sato was spacing out. Sato immediately shook his hand while giving a weak laugh. It's nothing, he uttered. Vlad looked at him for a bit before smiling. Well, now that we are on good terms, it's time I mention something. He said before releasing his magic aura to the surroundings. What kind of power is this? Deka panicked and held out his scythe. Elena did the same thing. She could also feel the intense power and instinctively just pulled out her blade and took a defensive stance. Meanwhile, Sato and Yuri just stood there unfazed while they had their eyes locked on Vlad. What do you mean by that? Sato asked while still trying to keep a calm expression. Well, it's quite simple actually. Your servant attacked mine. It's only natural that a competition will be held between both parties. Vlad uttered. The hell is this guy saying? Sato thought to him as he hid his frustration. That's not how I saw it. You baby doo-doo vampire over there attacked me first. My subordinate was only looking out for my well-being. If anything, I should be the one making the complaints. Sato voiced out. Vlad smiled before releasing more of his magic energy into the air. Is that a fact? He uttered. Sato moved closer and poured out his own energy, which immediately had Vlad and his men stunned. It is. I'm not looking to fight, so why don't we just call this even? Sato asked. Vlad pointed at the deer hugs with his focus still on Sato. How about we make a bet? He uttered. A bet. Yes, a bet. We pick 1 servant each to go out there and hunt for deer hugs. Whoever manages to catch more gets to issue the punishment for the loser. Vlad uttered with a smile. Sato smiled back. Nah, I'll like to make mine interesting. You can issue the punishment if you win, but I want all your horses and goods if I win, he voiced out. Vlad laughed. You are quite the greedy type, aren't you? Very well, Sieg. Get up and come hunt for me, will you? Sieg, the blonde-haired man stood up from the ground as he walked toward Vlad while glaring at Sato and his servants. Yes, sire. Sieg bowed his head. Sato sighed. Deka, are you up for it? He asked before looking at Deka. Deka didn't hesitate, then stepped forward with the scythe resting on his shoulder. I won't let you down, my lord. He uttered. Elves. Pathetic creatures like you want to go against vampires. Sieg laughed. We'll see who will be laughing at the end. Deka voiced out with a calm look on his face. ...